Okay, the notifications have gone out, and hopefully you're up for this. It's going to be a fun one, this. Hopefully as well that you managed to catch yesterday's show, our very cool incidental episode with Mike Hawthorne. The audio version of that has gone up on SoundCloud, it's gone on iTunes and Spotify, so please do dive in and yeah, check it out, because we had a lot of fun with that. It was a good show. Also, I know that one or two people are getting excited about the shows that are coming up. Let me just bring them up on screen very quickly, because next weekend is going to be our chat with Julie Tate, who's the director of Lakes Festival. If you are very much like myself, interested in the landscape of conventions and finding out exactly what we can expect from virtual conventions, this one's a little bit interesting, because the Lakes Festival is very much like an Anglais. It's very much takes up a town and lots of individual buildings in the town, schools, libraries, arts buildings, all covering very different schools of sequential art. What they're doing with that in terms of an online event, how does that work? We'll find out next week. We'll talk to Julie about all of that, of course. What else have we got? We do have somebody who's vanished. Cullen has disappeared. Hopefully he's going to come back. But yeah, it's going to be a fun show. As always, comments, questions, do let us know if there's anything that you want to put to Cullen Bun. Also, as well, we did get our Patreon payout, which was on Thursday. As far as I'm aware, we haven't had any changes to the lineup of people who have been donating. So thank you very much indeed to everybody who's currently on screen, which we are showing appreciation for all of the support. It really is very much appreciated. Okay. The other thing as well, this week has been particularly weird. If anything, because two things I will show you in a second. There's a BB-8 Lego BB-8 which is in bits back there, which I'm not happy about. That thing over there it got knocked over by the cat. I don't have much in the way of Lego, so yeah, to have that happen hurt. So yeah, that I've got to sort out. And also, we haven't had that much in the way of incidental episodes. We need to kind of do something about that. Let's get some more incidental episodes. Do let us know if there's anybody that you want me to talk to. Jump in on the chat, jump in on the comments, and let me know, and we'll see what we can do about getting people involved. But let's do this, and then let's talk to Cullen, shall we? Hi there everybody, welcome along to Talking Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. My name is Leonard Sultana, and each and every Sunday we talk Comic Cons, con culture, and all the stuff and nonsense that we get to enjoy at such events when they happen. Considering I think we're looking at a fair old while until we can actually meet up again. I know there are some small events that are happening, but I think those are getting slowly but surely shut down as the numbers continue to get all over the place. So we are waiting on that time when we can all kind of meet up and kind of gather in person again. Virtual conventions are still happening though, so at the end of the show we are going to be talking about a couple of events that are coming up. Got Star Trek Day, sorry, wrong franchise. Got a Star Trek Day that's happening this week, and of course next week end is going to be the part 2 of DC Fandom. So we're going to get into that as well with a whole bunch of a look down at some of the schedule and see what people can get up to. But as always, we do our best to get on board some people to talk to us. And we've got ourselves someone who is someone I've been waiting and looking forward to getting on board for a while. He's an award-winning comics writer. You'll probably know him from works such as The Sixth Gun, Harrow County, The Damned, Punk Mambo, and for myself, I'm a big fan of the books he did for the Marvel Star Wars run as well. But we're going to get into all sorts of bits and pieces that he got into, because we are talking to Cullen Bun. Hello there, sir. How the devil are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Yeah, it's been a long time coming, this one, considering that I think the only time I've actually seen and met you in real life was when you came over for the MCM London show in 2018. And so it was a weird one. Two reasons. Number one, because I was hosting and I knew that I'd got a lot on my plate. They really loaded my timetable up with a lot of stuff, but I thought I'd had enough time to talk to you. So on literally, I think it was the Wednesday or the Thursday when you'd set up your table and our paths crossed. I said, "We'll come back to. I'll have a chat with you. We never saw each other again for the rest of the weekend. It was
Right?
so
Yeah.
so embarrassing."
It
But
was
there we go.
a weird show for me because that's the one where my luggage got lost
Oh
on the way to
man.
the show. So I came and I was like, the convention organizers were nice enough to give me like some t-shirts and some sweatshirts and stuff. But it took a few days for my luggage to actually arrive. I ended up going the night we got there, and we got there relative. I mean, it wasn't late, but it wasn't early either. We ended up rushing to a mall and buying some ill-fitting clothes so that I could at least change clothes for the convention.
What was that show like for you? Considering that, I mean, I'm an MCM supporter. I work for MCM, or I've done work for MCM, but that one was a weird one because it was the first year that Repop had just taken the show over, or it was the first year that
Right.
they'd really kind of put their stamp on things with the buying of MCM. MCM had been known, and still is to some degree, as a pop culture con.
Right.
So this was the first year that they threw an absolute bucket load of money on some real high quality guests when it comes to comics and comic writers and comic artists, and they flew them all in. But it was still a case of the MCM crowd like going, okay, what are they doing here? What's going on? How was it for you for that show? It
Yeah, you
must have
could
been weird.
yeah, you could feel that vibe for sure. And I've been to many shows where they've done that thing. Either they used to be mainly pop culture and then they added comics, or they were comics and then they really went crazy adding the pop culture. And I could tell there was still and I don't know what it's like now, but there was still the need to kind of fuse those things together a little bit. I think the comics folks were all over in one area, and
Yeah.
then there's like an entire hallway, like a corridor dividing it from the other pop culture area and the gaming. And that's part of that is just the nature of the venue, which it was a cool convention center, but it's the space was just set up in that way. But yeah, it would have been. You could tell that there was a little bit of a disconnect, and there were even people coming up through the weekend that didn't even know there were comics folks there until they happened to stumble into that area of the convention hall. But it was pretty busy. I mean, I was fairly busy the entire time. I feel like I was a little. It's hard for me to comment because I feel like I was a little out of sorts the entire convention. Like just everything. I didn't, it's like little things. I didn't have a tablecloth,
Yeah.
and that's, usually I bring that stuff because traveling overseas, I didn't want to, I was trying to pack a little lighter. So, there were things like that just put me, that didn't put me on my best game. So everybody else's, their booths all look beautiful because they were smart enough to bring tablecloths, something as simple as a tablecloth. And then mine, I give them the wood affair. You got the
I
dingy.
don't know because I mean MCM were a little unsure about how to kind of approach the comics talent at that point. I mean they booked them in and that was great, but I
Yeah.
mean there were people, some high quality guests that were just there with handwritten signs, kind of like blue tack to the front of their table because there was no real prep. It was it was a very odd convention.
Well,
But then there's this kind of like some like spit and sawdust kind of vibe to it, and then you turn your eyes and there's Jeff Darrow and there's Frank Miller, and it's so strange, so strange.
Yeah.
But there we go.
Anytime I travel any distance to a convention is a little weird, because I bring a lot of books usually, and I try to set up and have things for people to pick up if they want to. But that was even more weird because I was lucky enough to work with a couple of local comic shops that managed to get books for me that I was able to have at my table.
Cool.
But yeah, it's setting up for conventions, any convention for me is always an ordeal.
Yeah.
It's
well, I mean, we'll get into
my least favorite part of a convention. Favorite part is getting it set up.
Well, we'll get into your convention background in a second. I mean, I've been trying to start this run of Talking Con with 3 questions, so we'll do the 3. Number 1, I've got my tea. What beverage do you have to hand? What is your cup of tea today? Do you have a coffee? What do you have to hand?
I have a bottle of water, and I actually poured a pint of beer before I came on. I was like, you know what? I can't.
Go for it, man.
It's too early, so I drank that real quick and brought the bottle of water in. So
I believe what's the phrase? It's always 6 o'clock somewhere.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's question number 1. Question number 2: can you remember your first convention? And did you go as a pro or as a fan?
So, I mean, I was going to conventions when I was very young, both. I was going to very little what I call hotel room conventions, which is really, where a bunch of dealers set up, and I lived in a relatively small town, so that was a big deal to have a convention like that. And I would go and buy quarter comics and just go crazy there. But then I think the first real bigger convention I went to was Heroes Con in Charlotte. I don't know what year it was. I was very young. I remember I took books and had Rick Leonardi sign some books for me.
Nice.
That's the only signature I remember getting. And I'm almost, I know it was in Charlotte, so I'm 98% sure it was a Heroes Con, but I don't remember what year it was. But yeah, I was going to conventions like that, mainly very small shows until I was a little older. And then I went to a few shows as a pro, between then I started going to Gen Con in Milwaukee as a gaming fan. I was going there for a while, just as a fan. And then as I started to really try to break in comics, I was going to some Wizard World shows, and the Chicago Rosemont show was the big one for me when I was really breaking in, because it was close enough for me to travel to easily. And then I started going to a lot more shows, obviously, as I started getting more work and trying to get more work. I was going to a lot of the bigger shows. I also used to go to World Horror Con a lot. Before I was going to a lot of comic book conventions, I was going to World Horror Con every year. That was my go-to convention because I was just hanging out with all the horror writers.
That's pretty cool. And the question I've also been asking is, when you have been going to conventions, and this isn't necessarily your first convention or any of those early ones, but even going as a pro, can you remember any wobbly knees moments? Those moments where you've met an idol or somebody that you've admired and just got, and the brain has just taken a 3 steps to the left kind of moment?
Yeah, I mean, so many. I mean, there's so many of those occasions. I remember going to World Horror Con in New York City, and it was my first trip to New York City too, and meeting John Skip, who was a writer that I really admired, and I got real nervous talking to him, and he was super gracious and kind, and invited me to lunch with him, and that was really weird. At comic book conventions, I think I got a little misty-eyed when I met Michael Golden for the first time.
Oh,
and
wow.
He was an interesting cat, because everybody kept telling me, "Oh yeah, he's such a curmudgeon. He's so grumpy. He's such a and that seems to be the word on every comic book creator. Oh, such a curmudgeon, such a curmudgeon. So I went over because I was such a huge fan of his work and started talking to him. He was so kind and so gracious, and we started talking about everything except, everything around comics and our lives and everything else. And I think I got a little misty-eyed in that conversation. I think I turned my head so he wouldn't see me get misty. And Stan Sakai, he came over at a convention. He came up to my table.
Whoa.
And told me he enjoyed Harrow County and the Six Gun, and that was that was a huge deal for me. So yeah, I mean, and I'm sure there will be plenty more in the future, but yeah, but they're all curmudgeons, so just
yeah. That's it's like I was talking to Mike Hawthorne yesterday. I thankfully my DJ training has kind of kept me from really losing the plot when it comes to doing interviews and hosting panels, and I kind of switch into alternate Leonard mode. I go from me to DJ Lenny, and I turn on the show, and nothing really kind of ever goes off. But then I did the Q&A, the intimate Q&A. It was just 20 odd people and myself and Frank Miller, and my brain just went out the door. It just left, and I just was left completely blown at that point. But yeah, fun and games.
Yeah.
We've got a whole bunch of people who are watching. As always, guys, if you have any questions for Cullen, I've got a whole bunch, but if you've got anything that you want to put forward, do let us know. We've got Leanne who's joining us. We've got, I mean, by this point, by the way, they are all kind of talking to each other and saying hi and trying like catching up over the course of the week. But we do have Into the Blue Mist, who does like doing this one, checking out the background of our guests and just seeing just how nerdy and geeky and what they've got to hand, and yeah, you're raising the bar on nerd background stuff.
Man, I don't know. I see so many other, we've been doing a lot of Zoom meetings over the last few months, so I get to see a lot of other creators studios and offices, and I always have a little bit of envy. But yeah, that's what you're seeing is just one little corner. If you were to look over here, you'd see my famous monsters and Fangorias and creepies on another spinner rack. And if you look over here, that's another shelf full of hardcovers and trade paperbacks, and all my statues are up above. So yeah, I like to surround myself with, and then up here again is all original art from different comics I've worked on.
Nice.
So I like to surround myself with things that. That inspire me or that remind me of being a kid or remind me of being young. I kind of have a flea market chic going on.
What's the line? I think it's Kevin Smith who turned around and said it's when you get to that point in your life when you are just, if anything, you're going to conventions or you're going to comic book shops just to reclaim all that stuff that you got rid of when you were a kid.
Yeah, for sure.
You're just regathering and you're just bringing back together. You do have also Into the Blue Mister and Solicitous Meg trying to determine what the orange thing is. I mean, Leandy is saying it's an orange stuffed dog. This is to your...
This guy?
Yeah.
That's Sammy from the movie Trick or Treat. So this is an animatronic, a Halloween animatronic I bought last year. My son and I put a haunted house on in our garage, and we had this little Sammy. He moves around and plays music and giggles and stuff like that. But after Halloween, he was so cool, I just couldn't get rid of him. So I moved him into my office. And now every time I walk into my office, I jump because I forget he's standing there. And there's a little, a child-sized monster standing there. If you haven't seen Trick or Treat, now is the time we're coming up on Halloween season. And that movie is amazing. So
I'm really curious to see how this year's going to be for Halloween. Because I mean, this year we've almost abandoned all the holidays,
right?
Just because I think there's almost this kind of this hibernation mentality. Everyone's just kind of bunkering down and just let's just get this year out of the goddamn way, and everyone's just kind of bunkering down. And so I'm curious to see. Halloween is obviously such a massive deal in the States. It's certainly grown that way here in the UK as well. That people are just wanting some kind of release and some kind of let's enjoy ourselves at least once before November,
right.
and get that out of the way.
Well, look, it's Halloween all the time for me. In another room here in my house, I have a Halloween village that I never take down. I just add to it throughout the year, and I don't even bother taking it down. And I collect Halloween statues and vintage Halloween stuff. So it's every day for me, but. but yeah, I'm a little worried because, like I said, I did a haunted house with my son last year, and it was such a hit in the neighborhood. We were really looking forward to doing it again. I think that's not going to happen this year. So we're trying to figure out, what do we do? Do we set up something along the street that people can drive by? What, so, but we may, who knows? It may just be a night of watching spooky movies all night.
Fair enough. Sounds like a plan. Michael P. Cullen, by the way, it's your accent that disarms the curmudgeons. Just to let you know. Just to let you know.
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, the one I've been seeing your face on a whole bunch. I mean, you're talking about Zoom conversations, and you've been talking about because I've seen you a number of virtual conventions that you've been showing up on as well, and you've been talking a lot about how this year has been for you as a creator. Because when we were just getting started and getting set up, I said that you've been very busy this year, and you actually said that you actually haven't felt that you have been over the course of the last couple of months. I mean. It's definitely felt that you've been. It feels like you've been keeping busy, but obviously for yourself, that's not the case.
It's been tough. Look, being a comic creator, the truth of it is, it's a game of peaks and valleys. And I was doing, there was a time in my life where it was all peak, and I was like, hey, this is awesome. But the last few years have been valleys in a big way. And I've had to really reassess my career and really what I'm going to do and how I'm going to continue, working in comics. Some of those valleys are of my own making, my own decisions, and some are not. But this last few months in particular, I have work that I could. A lot of my work was, pencils down. Publishers weren't moving forward with anything, and some of my stuff is still in a pencils down. But I had work I could be doing, but I think I got so stressed out and so depressed over the not just the state of the world, but some things that were going on in personal life, that I just couldn't make myself work. I'd come down here into my office and I would sit on that couch over there, and that's it. Or I'd sit here at my computer and do nothing. And that was, there were at least a few months where I just don't know that I accomplished really anything. I came up with a lot of ideas of things I wanted to do. So maybe from that perspective, it was, it was fruitful, because sure, I came up with some pitches for new series and things like that, but I wasn't working on the stuff I had to do. So now I'm in a little bit of a catch up mode right now. I've been busier the last couple of weeks because I need to catch up. I need to recapture, my zest. The thing is, I have one speed, and that is I'm working nonstop, full speed ahead. Catch me if you can.
Yeah.
And the last few months, it's not been that way. Last couple of years, I think I've slowed down a little bit, but then the last few months, I've definitely kind of, it's like you're riding your bike really fast as a kid, and then you hit that bump, and then you're just tumbling, and then you just lay still on the ground for a little while. I've been in the lay still on the ground for a little bit. So now,
I mean, it's safe to say in 2020 you're joining a whole population of people that are doing that. Peter Griffin.
I mean, and I've always been one that, especially aspiring creators, would say, what if I experience writer's block? And in the past, I've always been the one that says writer's block doesn't exist.
No, I remember you saying,
But I got to be honest, there's nothing wrong with not being able to work right now. It's a tough time for a lot of people. So get through it however you can and get back at it when you can. So,
I mean, the one way that you've been doing it, I know, has been a real reconnect with your audience, and that's through the Patreon page and through Deepest Catacombs, which I'm going to bring up on screen so everyone can kind of experience this, because this is something particularly special. If you can just explain what Deepest Catacombs is, please, because it is so much fun. The actual as a project.
Yeah, it's so when I was a kid, Dungeons and Dragons was a huge part of my life. I mean, I still play, but Dungeons and Dragons was such a big part of my life. And one of the things I remember is they used to run these one-page comic book ads in comics. Bill Willingham did the majority, if not all of them. And and I love those little ads. I love them. It was a continuing story that you'd had to, next month, the next page would come out. So I started doing Deepest Catacombs as sort of an epic adventure story featuring a group of heroes told in one-page ads for a role-playing game that never existed. So each page looks like an ad, or would be an ad that might appear in a comic. Each page is drawn by a different different artist. So you're getting sort of a different vibe for every page. And we're just we're telling I think in the end it'll be about a 24-page. What I'm calling the first chapter will be about 24 pages.
I was going to ask. I mean, how planned is this? It very much, like you say, it's definitely a story per page, or is a definite it's a definite approach per page.
Right.
But how much of it has been planned and scripted moving forward?
All of wave one, the entire first chapter, is scripted and in the hands of the artists who are drawing it. I'm waiting for art to roll back in and to release them at that point. The page that's on the screen right there is by my friend Blackie Shepherd. The page we saw earlier was by AC Zamudio. So, and like I said, every page is different. The Zamudios, AC and Carlos, are doing the first and second page and the 23rd and 24th page. So they're sort of bookends. But other than that, all the artists are different. A lot of established pros are going to be working on it, but then I'm also looking at some people who are trying to get their work out there, trying to get, their first few projects are underappreciated. So you've got new artists, semi-pros, pros, everything.
Sure.
And really it's a fun project for me. I wrote that. I wrote that pretty quickly. I got that out. I sat down and I just, wrote those pages because it was a lot of fun for me. And that project really helped me sort of get my momentum back on working on the other stuff.
Because what I was going to ask you about is your process for somebody who has been so busy. Because I hosted a writer's workshop recently for RAM-V, which is going to be part of the Thought Bubble Online Festival. Most of it was pure technical, so most of it went completely over my head in terms of the scripting, plotting, and getting all the jigsaw puzzle of putting a place together. When you do have, or when you have had so many different projects on your plate, how far into story prep do you actually go, and how far do you kind of map out your scripts nowadays? Are you somebody that likes to have like the end episode, the end issue pretty much as a goal, or is it something you like to discover on the way?
Well, I usually have to know where I'm going with it. And, even with bigger projects like the Six Gun, which ran for 50 issues, or Harrow County, which ran 30-something issues, I like to know how it begins. I like to know some sort of milestones along the way. And I like to know how, in theory, it's going to end. And then I leave enough room to let some surprises happen in between those moments when I'm really, I don't over plan a big series like that, especially a big series. There needs to be things that bubble up. There need to be characters that you don't expect that you're going to love, that you love and want to see more of, or angles that kind of surface that can in some ways change the story. But I always want to know, or have at least a fairly good idea of where that's going to end. So
I'm really curious how that worked with like Six Gun, because that was such a sprawling epic, and I'm curious to know how far you'd mapped that in advance going into that.
I knew how the first 6 issues were going to read.
Right.
I knew several big events that would take place over the course of the series. And when I say I knew, it was like, it was things like Drake loses the guns. That's it. So I knew that character would lose the guns that he had at one point. And I knew what the ending was. the end that the way that series ended was how Brian Hurt and I wanted to end that book from the very beginning. But along the way, certain things changed. Gord Cantrell was a character who surfaces at the end of the first arc, became a major favorite character for both of us. Kirby Hale became a favorite character. He showed up in the second arc, so we kept him around and did more with him. Certain villainous characters kind of got more play. Some dropped off, but there was plenty of room to kind of do some interesting stuff that we weren't expecting. I mean, there are arcs of that series. There's an arc where Becky uses the power of the sixth gun and she travels to essentially alternate realities. And that arc sort of came as a surprise to us. It wasn't something that we had planned initially, but we thought it would be a fun story to tell and could add something to the mythology. And so that all came up out of nowhere. Because initially we weren't sure how many issues we were going to get. There was a time where we thought we're going to get 6 issues and that's it. Then we thought we might be getting 30 issues. So we were planning, we kind of kept it fluid so that we could, expand or compress the story as we needed to, so that we would have a satisfying ending.
Sure.
It's
something that I've been thinking about. Certainly, one of my favorite runs over the course of this last couple of years has been Hellblazer, which Si Spurrier has done. And then to have DC and Vertigo go through that massive upheaval over the last couple of weeks, and then to have Si Spurrier's run cut incredibly short. And I read his blog post, and I'm always really curious to hear from a writer how on earth you're supposed to pivot when you hear that word that the run's going to come to a close, and how on earth when you've got something mapped out and you're just thinking, okay, how on earth do you do that?
Well, it's tough, and I have this sort of sickness that I can't help but overthink and try to do more. I get a story and I'm like, all right, I'm planning issue 50. I know what's happening, from issue 1 to issue 50 or issue 60. And here are all the things I want to do, because I came, into reading comics in the era of people having massive runs of books. I mean, and that's what I love. And it's not the case for the vast majority of creators are not going to get that. An editor, a high level editor once told me, if you get 11 issues, we consider that book a great success. And and it's a sad, unfortunate truth. And look, and there's some of this, I know that there's a mentality among some, editors that if so-and-so writes a character, they're not going to write it if we relaunch the book with a new number 1. A new number 1 is going to goose sales, but we're not going to do it with the same creator, because readers aren't following that creator. They're going to follow the character and they want a boost. I hate it. I loathe that concept with every fiber of my being, but it's what the publishers feel they need to do to sell books.
Yes, so, definitely the nature of the business, which is very strange. We've got Themoth Pit. I think I've got the name right. Hi, Mr. Bunn. I bought the last few books of Harrow County from you at C2E2 Chicago. You told me you hoped I enjoyed the ending. I just wanted to say I super enjoyed it and thought it was very fitting.
That's awesome.
That's pretty damn cool. Also, congratulations on Tales from Harrow County, which I read. Very, very good. Excellent stuff indeed.
Thank you. We're I'm hoping we're going to be doing more of those. So there's more story to be told. But yeah, that Harrow County ending. Again, here I am saying that you're lucky to get 11 issues of a series. We were able to do exactly what we wanted with Harrow County and end it exactly how we wanted, and that's a rarity in comics. So we were very lucky to be able to do it, and I'm very pleased with how that series ended, and I've been very pleased with the result, or with the fan response to it.
And it's also great that you've been able to return to the universe as well with this these new books, which is cool. Into the Blue Mister. I remember seeing this type of one-page ads. I think we're talking about Deepest Catacombs in White Dwarf in the late 80s. My God, okay, that's my childhood just slapping me about a bit for a second. White Dwarf, good.
Now
God.
you want to go and collect all the back issues with White Dwarf. That's how my brain works. Someone mentions White Dwarf to me, and I'm like, I gotta go get those White Dwarf back issues.
Are you a hoarder? Because I mean, the one thing that I've been hearing whenever I sort of like watch podcasts and stuff. I mean, I know that you've been kind of recollecting the old floppies of Uncanny X-Men.
Yes.
How far? Well, number one, how far have you got with that? By the way.
I need 6 issues.
Okay, fair enough. And when it comes to your collection, when it comes to your comics, are you a floppies or a trades kind of guy?
I'm now more of a trade. More of a hardcover. I love hardcovers now. That's what I really like. One of the things I like floppies for is I have my comics bound now, so I'll take my floppy comics and have them bound into hardcover.
Oh, nice.
So I have dozens of those now, and because I can get books and have them collected in ways that I might not. Sometimes books that are never going to get collected or may never get collected, I have them in hardcover on my shelf. And the interesting thing about that is it's gotten me into reading those old floppies again. If I just put them in a box, I'm not going to read them. They're going to sit in a box forever. But they're on a shelf in there, and I can go and read old issues of Ghosts from DC or Micronauts or Shogun Warriors because I've got them bound on a shelf where I can just grab it, pull it off, and read them. So from that perspective, I still like floppies, but there's a closet in there of comics that is just a disaster, and I'll pull them out every now and again. Say, here, I'm going to organize these comics, and then about an hour and a half, 2 hours in, I am so sick of comic books. I'm just like, I don't want to touch them. I don't want to look at them. I just throw them back in a box. They go back in the closet, probably more disorganized than they were to begin with.
Fair enough.
Maybe a little bit of a hoarder, though. I mean, I'm definitely, I definitely get mixed up with nostalgia, and I go through, and it hits me like a sledgehammer. I'll not be thinking about anything. It just happened yesterday. I haven't thought about these books in years, and I stumbled onto an old copy of one of the Myth Adventure books by Robert Asprin, the novels. And suddenly I've got to look and see how many of those novels are out. And there's 20-something of them. And I'm like, I got to have them all because I need that. I loved them when I was a kid. And it'll pass. If I don't worry about it, that nostalgia will pass. But for right now, I really want to hit eBay right now and go see where I can find all those old books.
Yeah. I mean, when I've been speaking to creators and talent over the course of the summer, it really is one way or the other. People have been either saying that they've been voraciously going through like Kickstarter or brand new, stuff that they have not discovered before, and really kind of voraciously going through brand new content, or they've been going comfort food and going back to the olds, going back to their collections, going through their old comics, rewatching Friends again, and just kind of going through the old stuff. I'm guessing you're very much the latter. You're someone who's been going through.
I kind of feel like I straddle both sides of that fence because my Kickstarter addiction is very very troubling to my family. So I was thinking about this just a couple of days ago, why I like these Kickstarters, and I had just gotten some stuff, and I love the feel. When you go to a convention, and there's books that you've seen 1,000 times. Every copy of this you've seen forever. But there's some sort of, for me, there's sort of a joy to finding these things at convention tables that I can't get at the store. A book that someone self-published or a book that you haven't seen. I love those. So I have the Kickstarter kind of fuels that for me. I get that feeling of something different, something special.
Fair enough. I mean, for myself, I've been going through my old. I have been doing the Star Wars run, the Marvel Star Wars run, because it was the book that kind of really got me back into collecting comics again. And the Darth Maul run, which you did, the 6th issue, and also the Star Wars annual as well. was a real big highlight of that reread.
Thank you.
If you can talk about that, just I mean, let's put it this way: I'm on brand today. I've got my Star Wars. Yeah, where is it? Ugh! I've got my mask. It is a Star Wars mask, and I've got my Star Wars T-shirt on. I've been on brand today. Yeah, if you could talk about Darth Maul and who approached who when it came to taking on that character, and yeah, how did that series come about?
Well, I was working with Jordan White at Marvel on a lot of the Deadpool stuff. So I did a lot of Deadpool books with Jordan, and he was also handling the Star Wars titles. And I had told him a couple of times at conventions or at Marvel, retreats or whatever, that I really wanted a shot at some Star Wars books. And he called me one day and said, "Cullen, we have a Star Wars book for you." And I said, "Yes." He said, "I haven't even told you what it is yet." And I said, "Well, I'm going to do it." Because at the time, my son was he still is, but he was very into Star Wars. And I thought, hey, this will impress my kid. It didn't. But
Really?
He's not interested. He's not impressed by comics. But I was excited that it was Darth Maul. To me, Darth Maul was the highlight. I think to most people, Darth Maul was the highlight of the Phantom Menace. And I liked him in the Clone Wars stuff. So I was excited to do a Darth Maul story. I was a little nervous going into it because when you work on licensed properties, especially sort of where you're going a double license because you're dealing with Marvel and Lucasfilm, you never know what you're going to, how problematic it's going to be, how much of a headache it's going to be. But it was such a delight. I mean, it was just so easy. Lucasfilm the folks at Lucasfilm were so great to work with. They were additive to the process. So, there were things I was like, I want to put a Rathtar in it. And instead of them saying, well, we don't know if we want to do it, they were like, that's awesome. Let's put it on the world that we see in the Star Wars Lego video game. They were able to tell me the things that I might not know about the bigger mythology of the bigger, universe and help me add to it. So they were completely, just a delight to work with throughout both the Star Wars projects I worked on.
That's really cool. I think also the artwork was brilliant on both books. Very unique, very distinctive, especially the Darth Maul run. But you've always been able to, you've been very lucky in the way that you've paired up with incredible artists. I mean, if we can just go back to Sixth Gun and talk about that kind of the collaboration with Brian Hurt and just how on earth did you two come together? Because that's serendipity right there. We'll talk about two creators that have found each other.
Yeah, well, so fresh out of college, I got a job at a comic book store, as you do.
As you do.
And Brian Hurt also worked I managed one store, and Brian managed another store, and we became friends at the corporate store meetings, and sometimes he'd be at my shop or I'd be at his. So we became friends over that time, and I realized, I found out he was an aspiring comic artist. He knew I wanted to tell stories, and we used to get together. We used to get together at either his apartment or my house, and we'd sit and talk about, stories we want to tell and spooky stories and things. And I remember many times where I don't want this to make either one of us sound bad, but I remember times where I was scared to walk out to my car after we'd be coming up with these story ideas, or he was scared to walk out his car. So we had to watch each other and make sure we got to the car safely, because we were coming up with some crazy stuff in these meetings. And it took a long time. I mean, it was 10 years or more after that. But Brian and I became friends. We were always pitching comics together, trying to put series, put book series together. We pitched a series to Oni Press that predates The Damned, called Penny Dreadful.
Oh wow!
Which was sort of a supernatural mystery about some scumbag detectives that lived across the street from Sherlock Holmes. And it was an awesome series. It would have been great. And we still talk about going back and doing something with that world. We'd have to change the title now, but we did something with that world. But so we pitched that. It didn't go. And then the next thing we pitched was The Damned. And only bit on that right away. But yeah, I'll work with Brian Hurt till the day I die. If I have my druthers. I mean, we're talking right now about the next thing we're doing together.
Yeah. I mean, it's, for me, it's been a shame to see the pair of you come so close to having the story of Six Gun evolve on the comic page. The pilots come close. If you could briefly talk about that, because I know that you were on set when the pilot got shot, and when it didn't get picked up. But how possessive are you of story when it comes to the comic being the comic, and then just letting the project fly and letting other people pick up the reins and run with it? How much ownership do you have for yourself when it comes to a project like that? Because obviously you went on set, you were excited to have the characters come to life.
Yeah, and with the NBC pilot, they kept us very involved. I mean, we were involved every step of the way. From we were seeing we were having conversations with the producers and the initial screenwriters. We were seeing every version of the screenplay and giving feedback on that screenplay as it came along. We watched all the casting videos, which that was surreal, and it was. And we saw all the dailies. So we were getting all the dailies when it was being shot, and then we were on set. So they kept us probably more involved definitely more involved than they needed to. Over time, my feeling is the comic is the comic. A media adaptation is its own thing. And readers of the comic can enjoy that on its own, or they can enjoy it with the media adaptation and get something different out of it. Or they can, same with the folks who watch the TV show or the movie. They can love that without ever reading the comic. But if they read the comic, maybe they get something else a little different. Over time, I've changed my tune on some of that. I'm becoming more possessive of it. Because the thing I don't want to happen is for an adaptation to be made that's unrecognizable. I get that there's no such thing as they're not going to adapt a comic and it's going to be panel for panel, shot for shot on the movie or a TV show. Yeah. But it has to be recognizable, or I kind of feel like, what's the point? And that's so. Over time, I've become a little more of I'm not a stick in the mud. I don't get in the way of progress, but I definitely make sure my voice is heard on those types of deals. Yeah. And there's all sorts of stuff going on, and there's all those wheels turn very slowly.
Yeah. I'm reminded of the Douglas Adams quote of having a project made in Hollywood, which is basically having a row of people coming in. You're trying to cook a steak by having a row of people come into a room and breathing one by one on the steak. I remember that quote. Have you been watching any of the kind of adaptations that have made it to the screen over the last couple of years? I'm thinking The Boys. I'm thinking Lock and Key. I mean, I'm sure.
I'll tell you that
you'll be familiar with the original book and how they were translated to live screen.
Yeah, I love The Boys as a TV show. I love the book, but I love The Boys as a TV show. I think it is the new episodes. The 3 new episodes just aired a couple of days ago, and I of course watched them as soon as I could. I was like, and I'm watching all 3. And if they had released 10 episodes, I'd have probably sat there and watched all 10 episodes.
I can't believe there's been grief for that. Online there's been grief that it's not all being dumped in one go so people can binge it. I think it's a generational thing, because I'm an episodic guy. I'm a guy that likes an idea of a week to just digest and rewatch if needs be.
I have binged plenty of shows, but you know what I don't like about it is that feeling at the end of binging where you're just like, oh, I don't have to. Next week, I don't get another episode. Yeah. What? and it's that. So that part, I'm not I like that they're kind of doling it out a little bit. Mandalorian doled it out. I was able to get an episode a week, and that was fun, and I had something to look forward to over the week. If I had had the opportunity, I'd have probably binged it and watched the whole thing. That's my addictive personality, but I like that I was able to watch it, in small increments weekly. Creepshow on Shudder did the same thing. They released it once a week, and that was I think that was very successful for them. So it's okay for the folks who are upset that it's binging. It's okay to want something for a little while. It's okay to kind of Jones for it until it gets.
I wouldn't have enjoyed Legion. I wouldn't have enjoyed Watchmen if I'd have binged it. I mean, for a kickoff with Watchmen, that would have been just so heavy a meal just to take all that in and go.
Yeah, that's true. There's some shows just aren't made. I just recently rewatched Hannibal, and I decided to binge it. That show's far too dark and heavy, and I was watching 2 or 3 episodes of Hannibal, and then I was watching True Detective. That's not a good combo.
And the dark cloud starts forming over Cullen.
It was a terrible idea. It was such a dreary experience. I shouldn't have done it, and I need to remind myself of that.
Fair enough.
But I'm binging Cobra Kai right now. My son is watching Cobra Kai, and we're binging that. It's hard to, and he had never watched Stranger Things, so we just watched Stranger Things a couple of weeks ago, and we blew through those 3 seasons.
Yeah, cool. I mean, for me, I'm really curious to see about what comes next when it comes to pop culture and films and television, considering that this year we've had the industry pretty much come to a halt. We've got this new production, or the new normal, basically affecting production, and I'm really curious. I mean, the big fear for me, and I think for most audiences, is that we're going to just get this glut of Zoom call based thrillers and or socially distanced dramas, all based on isolation. I mean, speaking to creators over the summer, the running theme is that we are too close to the thing right now to kind of to really get a sense of what we're going to see moving forward and talking about pandemic. But what do you see possibly as a style or a genre down the line? How what could be coming down the line off the back of all of this?
Well, first of all, I definitely think we're going to get a lot of those. We're
going to get them anyway.
The Zoom call shows, and it's too late. It's already been done. Shudder just released Host, which is a Zoom based horror movie, and it's amazing. It is. It is absolutely. It is the scariest thing I've ever watched. In years. It's terrifying. So it's too late. It's already been done. No, it can't. That Host can't be topped as a Zoom-based horror movie. So stop doing. Don't even worry about it. The old saying is, by the time you've thought that up, it's already too late. You gotta, by the time you've caught up with that trend, it's too late to do it. But definitely go watch Host on Shudder if you haven't, because it's awesome.
Cool.
I think we're going to see a lot of animated, a lot more animated stuff coming out. There's some great adult-based animated stuff right now, but I think we're going to see, some different approaches to animation. Where I think we're going to see some different genres, some different styles of animated shows, and I'm excited for that. But I think we'll get back to Hollywood's not going to let us. Is not going to sit this one out for too long.
No. If anything, because I think people are wanting content. We've seen it. We've had this embracing of new content, and people are wanting. There's a definite voraciousness for it. I mean, when people are willing to spend money on Mulan. As a bonus payment on their Disney subscription, it speaks volumes.
It's true, and I think that delivery model. Look, streaming's already been that ball is just rolling and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But it's going to that delivery model for new content, new features. I think we're going to see more of that. The money's there, and people are willing to pay it. So
yeah. When it comes to Cullen Bun, then, what kind of do you feel that you would be interested in generating down the line? Because when I saw you on a podcast, well, we'll talk about mainframe in a minute. But when you were on there, you was talking about science fiction, and that's something that intrigued you as a genre that you'd like to really get your teeth into. You didn't actually expand on the type of science fiction you'd like to do. Is it hard sci-fi, sci-fi fantasy? Is there a Star Wars, or is it more Blade Runner? What's
Take a look around, man. Yeah. I like it all. I love all those different flavors of almost every genre. I really love sort of hardcore, gritty, realistic science fiction, but I also love that. I love people flying around on dragons and shooting people with laser blasters, and I love all that stuff too. So for me, it's tough not to come up with lots of different ideas. And I'm definitely doing some, besides Deepest Catacombs, I'm definitely working on what I would consider sort of epic fantasy stuff right now. That's a little ways out there still, but I've got, a number of fantasy comics that are in the works at different publishers, a number of horror comics, some horror comedy that's in the works with different publishers. And then I'm also expanding beyond comics. I've got, when I get done with this interview, I've got edits on a novella that's coming out with a publisher that I'm not allowed to talk about yet. And I'm going to be doing a lot more prose stuff as well. I'm really enjoying getting back into that in a bigger way. And then I've got a lot of middle reader and young adult stuff that's coming out in the near future as well.
Well, it sounds like that pandemic-induced kind of slowing down has been broken through.
It's got to be. Yeah. At this point, I can't afford to.
True.
I gave myself some time, and everybody needs time. But now it's also and there are still days where I don't feel like doing the work, and I just have to power through it. Yeah. But yeah, I can't just sit and wait any longer. So
sure. I mean, for most creators, I can imagine the convention circuit is something which allows you to break that week up and break the month up to go off and meet fans and go to new places, and that's something that's been kind of taken away from a lot of creators with this year. But obviously with virtual conventions, we've had that filling the void. I mentioned Mainframe because that was something that I saw you on, and I'm certain that you are more than familiar your way around Zoom and StreamYard at this point. You know your virtual cons. How have you seen virtual conventions this year? Is it a stopgap, or is it something that you feel will be carried forward even when we get conventions back up and running?
Yeah, I think this will be we will always have this. Now virtual conventions are going to be going. I think we'll see them from this day forward. I think we'll see a lot of actual conventions that are going to incorporate more of this the virtual mode into it as well, for people who can't go to the shows. So yeah, and I think publishers and creators are going to get more involved and the media are going to be doing these things for those weeks. I mean, there's a convention almost during the height of convention season. There's a convention almost everywhere, every weekend. Yeah. But we all know we can't go to all of those, and I think virtual conventions will be a way for us for people to just be more involved as we go forward. So I think we'll always have it. The one thing I don't feel that I get from the virtual conventions is something that one is the face-to-face interaction with the fans, at a table or whatever. I enjoy that. When I'm at those conventions, I'm pretty much at that table the entire time. I may take a little break to go dig through comics somewhere, but I usually am at the table the entire time because I enjoy interacting with the people who come up. But one of the things I always feel, conventions are tough on me. They're exhausting. They take time away from from actual work schedule. But I always kind of leave them feeling energized and ready to work on something new or develop ideas. And that's the thing those are the two things that I miss the most.
Sure. I think also when you talk to creatives and they say, considering that we barely get to see each other anyway, and it's only at conventions when we certainly when the doors have closed and BarCon kicks in, and we're able to actually finally catch up with everybody. So yeah, I think the virtual conventions we're seeing each other, but it's definitely odd to have that through the prism of a camera.
For sure.
We'll see how next year goes. I'll let you get off and enjoy the rest of your Sunday and say thank you very much indeed for joining us. And we do hope to see you at a convention and certainly here back in the UK as well, because we'd love to get you back over in this side of the pond.
Yeah, I'd love to come to another one there for sure.
Yeah, but I'm guessing that is some way away for yourself. What's it going to take to get you on a plane or a convention nowadays?
Well,
are we talking next summer, or are we talking a little bit further beyond?
It's all going to depend on how safe I feel the world is.
Yeah.
It's not something, as much as I miss them, I'm not rushing. I'm not the guy who's going to rush back into doing shows again if I don't feel it's safe for me and the fans and my friends and my family. It's like I said, cons are a lot of work, and getting sick at a con is not worth it. It's just that.
Considering in 2020 the idea of con crud has just been taken up a whole other notch.
Look, the last show I went to was S08e04 in Chicago, and this was right before, there was talk of COVID and the dangers of COVID, and it was out there, but we hadn't locked down the way we had. And I don't know what happened, but I was as sick after Chicago as I have ever been. And I was sick for a week, and I have not gotten the antibody test to see if I have developed antibodies, because my family was super sick, and it scared me. It was a scary time after that show.
Yeah. Like I say, I work as a DJ. I was same drill. I was as sick as I've ever been from around Christmas through to about end of February, March.
Yeah, and so who knows?
We don't know, do you? There's a definite.
Yeah, and look, con crud in general is awful, and I do everything I can to avoid it. I mean, before Chicago, I was getting vitamin infusions like through IV bags because I wanted to avoid getting sick at a convention. I just or after a convention, because it just knocks you out of work for so long for me. Yeah. And it didn't work this time. Whatever that was that got me after Chicago was ungodly. It was awful.
Well, I mean, I'm glad to see that you're back up to some kind of speed. I'm glad that the summer, we'll call it a hiatus, shall we? We'll call it a pause. I'm glad that's now been broken through. You're back up to creating, and it's great to see, like I say, the stuff that you are doing. Like I say, Tales from Harrow County is a stunning book. Deepest Catacombs is something I've really been enjoying. The fourth strip drops middle of this week. Yeah. I really would recommend everybody to go and check that out on Buns.
Yeah, and it's on my Patreon, but it's completely, I release those pages to my patrons a few days early, but then it's open to the public. So,
yeah. In fact, what I'll do is really quickly, I was going to just find your Patreon address, but I've just got the post on the. I was going to put the address up. I'm guessing patreon.com/Cullen Bun.
That's it.
There we go. Well worth checking out. Is there any other books that are coming down the line that you can tell us about, and that you can put on the salesman hat and share with us?
Yeah, so I have the Cyberpunk 2077
of course, yes.
Comic tie-in drops this Wednesday, I guess. The first issue comes out, I think. Anyway, I think
because I was going to ask you about the other stuff that you've been consuming over COVID and gaming and stuff, and I'm guessing you're still quite big in your gaming.
Yeah, I still play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. I play more Dungeons and Dragons now than I have in years. So and that is all thanks to Zoom and being able to create groups that I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons with a guy that I played D&D with in junior high. So and we haven't played in decades and decades, but now thanks to this and thanks to Zoom, we're a roll20.net. We're playing D&D again.
Nice.
But yeah, still some games I play. I don't play very many video games because I'm not good at them. But I like them, but then I get frustrated. But yeah, the Cyberpunk 2077 Trauma Team #1 comes out this week. It's whether you play the Cyberpunk game or are going to play the Cyberpunk video game or not, you'll be able to enjoy this. It's a dystopian cyberpunk world that it's set in the world of the video game, but it's its own story.
Cool.
So that's coming out. I have a book from HarperCollins. I don't have the release date yet. That's coming out next year called The Ghoul Next Door, which is a middle reader horror graphic novel that I'm doing with Kat Ferris. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think AWA has at least released the cover. So I'm doing a book called Bite Sized for them, which is sort of another middle reader graphic novel that I'm doing with them that I think drops in December, the first issue, which is about little robots causing havoc in a family's house on Christmas. And then I've got, like I said, I have, if I were to pan the camera slightly over here, you'd see my board of projects, and I have a ton of other creator-owned work that will be coming out in the next year. So stay tuned. And I still got, and that's not even talking about Shadow Man from Valiant, which has got delayed, but is going to be coming out at some point in the near future. I just don't have the final release date yet.
Yeah. I can imagine that you sometimes look at that whiteboard and see the projects upcoming and a small trickle of blood comes out of one ear and you just out of sheer
yes, that's exactly that's how it works.
Yeah, you've got work. But so in that case, we'll let you get off and enjoy your Sunday, because I'm often stunned that I even get any kind of guests on a Sunday coming on to talk to us, because I'm sure that they just want, can we have our weekend to ourselves, please? But no, I'm so glad that you agreed to come on and talk to us, and thank you so much indeed.
I appreciate you inviting me. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Once again, best place for people to keep up to date with your projects. Is it your Patreon? Is it Twitter? Is it Facebook?
So I think, I've got a website, which is cullenbun.com. Twitter @CullenBun is a great place to interact with me. And then, I have my Patreon, which is Patreon/CullenBun.
Excellent stuff. And hopefully we'll see you at a convention, virtual or not,
that's right,
down the line as well. Do you have a virtual convention coming down the line? Is there any of those coming up?
I don't think I have. On my own.
You could take a breather. You're done for a
Well, no, I think next week is a local comic shop, Phoenix Comics here in Missouri, is doing like a virtual anniversary party. So I'm going to be taking part in that. And then, I've got interviews and things like that, but I don't think I have any virtual conventions on the books. But that's the interesting thing about the virtual convention, is that they can pop up
anytime.
Like that, and they don't need a lot of lead time to get creators involved.
Fair enough. Well, I mean, like I say, we look forward to seeing you at a convention, either virtual, IOL, whichever. And of course, we look forward to reading more of your fantastic work. Cullen, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Take care. Enjoy your weekend.
You too.
All the rest of it. Excellent. There you go, Cullen Bun. Fantastic conversation, and thank you very much indeed for him for coming on. We are going to very quickly get into some convention news because, of course, we have got some bits and pieces that are happening over the course of the next 7 days. So we are going to be talking about that. Of course, anything else that you want to get into, if you want to dive in on the chat now, do let us know. Aaron Neighbours has made a comment, and I should have brought it up when Cullen was on screen. More virtual conventions that aren't free anymore, for sure. Yes. This is off. I'm certain that Aaron brings this up off the back of something that I saw this week as well, regarding um, the conversation regarding DC fandom about that Warner Brothers and AT&T are actively looking into how to monetize an event like DC fandom, which is completely understandable considering I guarantee they looked at the press release that they sent out. 22 million unique views, 220 countries, and I guarantee they just blinked that they put this thing out for free. Yes, it's one giant advert for upcoming projects. You've only had, out of all of them, I think there was only one that is kind of like very imminent. The rest are down the line. This was to generate interest. But any kind of income, that's the way it's going to be. I'm certain that when we've been talking about DC fandom and about what it could look like next year, in a physical space, I guarantee there's going to be some merch and some nice, tasty ticket prices because they're going to be looking at monetizing this interest that's been generated by this event. But there we go. A couple of the free, like I say, that for now though, it is free. And let's talk about the events which are coming down the line, considering that this week we have ourselves Star Trek Day, which is happening on the 8th. Let's have a look at the date. That's on Tuesday, so it's literally just down the road. We're talking a celebration of all the Star Trek fandoms, everything from original series and the animated series, all the way through the films, through Discovery, through Picard, through Lower Decks. Everything's going to get celebrated in one day. The one thing about Star Trek Day which kind of confuses me is how quickly this has just kind of crept up. It's been, I understand, arranged and organized over some time, but for some strange reason, it really does feel that the actual event itself has come out of nowhere. It just seems that CBS All Access, I don't know if they've really got their head around what it takes to organize a fandom. Fandom, get it right. But it's up and running. Panels starting at 12 p.m. Pacific, so that's 8 p.m. here in the UK. Thanks for that. Much appreciated. First panel, you've got Discovery, Deep Space Nine, Strange New Worlds, the Star Trek original series, Voyager 25th anniversary, Star Trek Enterprise, Star Trek Lower Decks, and Picard and the Next Generation. That's going to be your panels. And if you are a Star Trek fan, join Will Wheaton and Mika Burton for 3 hours of free virtual programmings. I know that the program or the panel for, or the Star Trek panel that they did for the San Diego Comic Con at home, it was 3 shows crammed into an hour, and most of it was that reading from Discovery. That's a lot of stuff crammed into not a great deal of time, and I'm wondering if they are not embracing and doing more with this. This seems a lot of a crush, and I'm hoping it's not a wasted opportunity. But there we go. Then you have next weekend something even bigger, which is, of course, DC Fandom, which is going to be returning 5 days and counting. Let's have a look at the schedule. Of course, it was pared back from the Hall of Heroes, which, if we actually bring up the Hall of Heroes programming, it's exactly the same as it was. What they're actually going to do with the Hall of Heroes over the course of the next weekend, I'm really curious. Are they just going to re-show this 24-hour stream again? I don't see why they shouldn't, but we'll see what happens. We've got the Watchverse, we've got Insiderverse, all of this, of course, kicking off at 6 o'clock on the Saturday and running throughout the course of the weekend. Everything from the Harley Quinn episode, Harley Quinn animated series, Joker War, 3 Jokers, lots of the comics and animated stuff that's been lined up, interspersed with the likes of the TV content as well. So you have the likes of Legends of Tomorrow, Stargirl, Doom Patrol, all of the other things. Basically everything that we were hoping we were going to be seeing a couple of weeks ago with the full fandom. But you have the Watchverse, you have Insiderverse, which was very much behind the scenes. I'm curious about this stuff, to be honest. This is my jam. Look behind the music, the new Batmobile for the Batman, artist drawing sessions with the likes of Emanuela Lipicino, Art Germ, which is going to be fascinating. This is the hall you're going to find me a lot of. Again, the concern I have is much in the same way as we had with the Hall of Heroes and with the last one. How much interaction we're going to get with the fans, and I'm hoping that they've learnt something from that, and there's going to be more of an interaction in terms of social media and involving the fans. Otherwise, it really is just going to be an info dump. Even San Diego Comic Con had some kind of communication, but not much. I'm just hoping that these virtual conventions aren't closing the walls off and that it's just basically a one big screen. There needs to be a dialogue, there needs to be a communication, otherwise, quite frankly, again, what is the point? Again, I'll be watching, I'll be paying close attention to what they're going to be getting up to. The Lego Fun Zone sounds fun. Yeah, I mean, there's stuff that's going to be happening, and for 24 hours, it speaks volumes that the stuff that they are in fact doing isn't being repeated like in 4-hour blocks like it had with the Hall of Heroes last time round. It is content throughout the course, which is a non-stop flow, which means for those going through the night, they're going to be slightly lost because there's going to be stuff that people are going to miss. This is the slightly different approach to the DC Fandom Hall of Heroes before, in that whereas before it was kind of like I think it was 6-hour block, 8-hour block, repeated 3 times, so there was people across the globe that could see the content. This time, if you don't see it first time round, you're going to miss it. It's as simple as that. And there's some really good, cool stuff in here, which I'm hoping that, like I say, people aren't going to kind of miss, unfortunately, because it's only going to be on once or twice. Once by the looks of things. Plenty of stuff in this particular hall. The U-verse, which is the representing of the fans. But I mean, for example, if we go to Watchverse, I mean, if we kind of go through into the middle of the night, I'm wondering how pick and choosing this is going to be. At the end of the day, we're going to find out next week. I'm just curious to see how they're going to do fandom. Is it going to be a slightly different approach? Is it going to be a more pick and choose video on demand setup? We'll find out next week. Right, and I think that's pretty much me. Of course, if there's anything else that you want to dive into and to discuss, do find me on my social medias. You can find me on Englishman SDCC on Twitter and on Periscope and on Twitch if you really feel the need. And of course, you can keep up to date with what we're getting up to on Facebook as well. An Englishman in San Diego is probably the best place to go for things like that. That has been our show. Hope you've enjoyed it. Do take care. Enjoy the rest of your week. For now, we have no incidental episodes booked for the middle of this week again, which means I don't know what to do with myself. I mean, I've been possibly thinking about getting in touch with the creative team behind the comic Ink Blot, which I've really been enjoying, but I'm tempted to get in touch with them. If there's any creatives that you feel that you would like me to interview and get on Talking Con, even if it's on one of our incidental episodes, get in contact with me by direct message or on social media. Just message me, tag them into it, let them know that we're around and that we exist. And do let us know what you would like to see on future episodes of Talking Con. Speaking of which, let's very quickly remind you one more time of the really cool episodes that we've got coming up in the next couple of weeks. These are, I'm thrilled that we're getting the chance to talk to the likes of Julie Tate, who's the director of Lakes Festival. That's next Sunday. Sunday after that, the 20th of September, we are talking to the creative team behind That Texas Blood from Image Comics. Chris Condon and Jacob Phillips are going to be coming on and talking about that. Elsa Chatelier, who's an incredible artist. Looking forward to talking to her. I can say that we've also got Jason Irwin down the line. We do have confirmed that we're going to be talking to Scotty Young in November. I've got all sorts of stuff and nonsense and people lined up, but of course we want to talk to the people you want me to talk to. So do jump in on the social media. Let us know who you feel we should be talking to, and we'll do what we can. Dan Berry is letting us know about DC Fandom. Most of these are available on demand, hence the 10 a.m. times on screen. So that's cool. I mean, that I'm down with. I'm okay with it. Is it going to be just available for that 24 hours then? In that case, it's a case of squeezing as many of the panels in over the course of 24 hours. Interesting that it's over the course of the Saturday night into Sunday morning. So, yeah. Well, for me here in the UK anyway. So looks like my Sunday is going to be pretty busy catching up with DC Fandom stuff. So there we go. Right. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Hope you've enjoyed it. Of course, the audio version of this is going to be live on SoundCloud, iTunes, and also on Spotify as of 12 p.m. tomorrow on Monday. And then the full video of this will be available on my YouTube channel, which is going to be on Wednesday. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Aaron Neighbours, thanks again for an awesome show. Yeah, I enjoyed today. That was a lot of fun. It was good to talk to Cullen, considering it's been a long time coming, and it's been good to finally get him on the show. So that was great. Again, we show the names at the end. As far as I'm aware, there's been nobody that's dropped off, but there's also been nobody that's kind of joined us. We are going to try and encourage more people to join us on the Patreon page. But for those people that are Patreon supporters, you are watching this now, I really appreciate all your support, because it really does. It not only allows me to do what I do, but it validates what I do as well. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much indeed. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your week. And depending on whether we do get any incidental episodes next week, we'll see you next Sunday for another Talking Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego, which has gone cold now, but I'm going to drink it anyway. Take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.